Okay, hello. This should be a fairly short film to just accompany the updated drawings dated 12/22. And I thought that I would be starting on that front end at the kitchen ideas, but I wanted to update the construction drawings themselves, particularly at the foundation plan, to bring those closer to something that can be applied for a permit, which, by the way, I haven't checked, but I believe you can still apply for a foundation-only permit if things got tight. But I returned to that foundation plan specifically, and that is now updated, really permit ready, unless something changes at the first floor. The foundation plan is permit ready, and I've also updated the first and second floor plans as well on the construction drawings. So first of all, though, I came here and figured that this was going to be trusses over this area here, and the program wanted to draw them all the way into here. But I'm assuming there'd be something like this, where they stop at this wall and hang on some sort of ledger that's nailed to that wall. In any event, we have plenty of room for insulation over there, and no real opportunity for like a storage or anything like that. So I have that as just attic space up there, because this is almost 16 inches here, and so that could be blown or fiberglass. So you would have to have an attic access opening, though, through this closet here. You can see it here coming in through that closet, because that will be required, and that could come all the way down to the floor if you thought that any kind of storage could be had up there if you wanted that off of that closet on the second floor. And then quickly out here, because remember on the last film I changed this corner board to 7.5 by 7.5, like the width of this beam, and did the same thing now out here at these corners with that one and this one here. So those are big chunky 7.5 inch corner boards. After those first floor details, I returned to the foundation plan and added quite a bit of notes and tried to finalize some of these dimensions as well. This was this early go, and I hadn't touched this deck and hot tub framing since that time. This was when we were going to have the hot tub sitting on the ground on a slab. I cannot recall. I know that the hot tub was still going to be included, to my knowledge, but approaching this from an estate kind of standpoint and from a larger kind of standpoint. First of all, I reframed this deck with just 2 beams, and then using 2x8 framing instead of 2x6 framing, and I got rid of this center beam here, and these beams stayed the same size as the ones before, 2x8s. But in part because of the estate approach and the larger kind of approach to the project in general, at least for this review, but also because I had recently done in December, November, we got approved a plan to recess this tub into a deck. And so this approach from 1215E at this point, and if this becomes irrelevant, there won't be a fee for it. But because a lot of this whole idea was already put together in this earlier plan, you can review that at the SFD films, and I'll put that link at the end because it's probably relevant. And that design, which is for a larger hot tub than what we had been showing earlier, that was taken directly from this, and this was just approved and in Montgomery County, from Washington Township in Montgomery County in November. So this is definitely going to be passable if we do something similar. So I had just, again, from an estate standpoint and from a larger standpoint, I had made this large enough to accommodate that same spa, that A6L. And because that was what I had just finished designing, I came over and looked at these A-series again, which is essentially their top line, I guess, luxury class. But that was what I had designed that for, the A6L, as what I designed that for. And I go through here, and there's nothing that's really smaller, which was 7.4 by 6.8. And to get smaller than that, you get into this sort of, at least from this manufacturer, you get into this just a 3-seat count. And I would just like to know if they have something smaller. So this M6, which seats 7, would also fit in this same framing, but the filled weight in this one, in the event you were looking for this large 7-seat spa thing, the filled weight is 53, which is another 1,000 pounds, which means probably these things here might have to increase to 12 inches on center to accommodate something of that size. But that 7.7 by 6.8 will, fit in this just as well as this A6L does and the A7L. And here are some more under this X series. These are larger until you get down to here. That one's even larger, but this one's certainly curious. And this one seats 5, which is the only kind of mid-range size I've seen so far. 5 people can fit in that one, and this X6L would fit. But when you get smaller than that, you're into this kind of 2-person thing. You'll have to make a judgment on how large a hot tub you want here. I assume you still want a hot tub here. The last time we had that all the way down to the ground, but we only moved the whole assembly 10 inches to the east, and now the bottom of these stairs is about 16 feet or so from that rear door, and everything is up at the same level 0. But that you can take this down 7.5 inches at a time, including the framing of that spa, etc. And it wasn't even necessary in the first place for me to move it those 10 inches. I believe I started by centering that size hot tub on that window there. But right now, there's 3 feet or so between the edge of your master bedroom door and the edge of that hot tub. So you can move that or make that deck smaller as you would like. But this does update this foundation plan pretty substantially. So I finished designing this in terms of the pier size and etc. And this is the trapdoor framing that would be required for you to get into the front of that spa when and if you need to. So that whole orange area, all those orange joists are dropped where the bottom of those ones are level with the bottom of these 2x10s. And I think though that at the end I increased those 2x10s, so there's the trapdoor framing and there's the tub in it. I'm still showing 2x10s and 2x8s. I think I increased these to 2x12s down here so that we could drop that as low as possible. 2x10s will work, but if we make them 2x12s, we can drop that 11.25 inches, and that makes the top, at least of the A6L, about 19 inches from the deck floor. And note, we can still, we can move this up and down, and we can move the deck level up and down. And when we did that, we did lose the symmetry with these newel posts, because we had to go to an extra newel post in here to get those spans a little shorter. This was how this gets put together for this, and it differs slightly from the other plan, but that was the bottom platform there, suspended on those 2x10s or 2x12s, and a platform of that, and then the tub on top of that. And then these are custom size, whatever size it takes to make this 2x4 frame land on top of those when they're lifted out. It's just designed to be lifted out now because I I've not figured out the correct hinging where a hinge would be hidden. But and at first I was showing these border planks along here, and you need to put one over here, but you don't need this one here, or the one at the back for that matter. So I get rid of those at the end like that, and that's how that particular size would shape up, or any similar size is going to shape up like that. And one other relevant thing with regard to this hot tub and this size, oriented this way, we can't really rotate it. We could, but we'd start crowding that door. But generally there's going to be some sort of a stair up to there. And I looked at the ones from the manufacturer, and I'm not sure how reliable those hard and fast step numbers can be, because they offer a variety of different steps. But I think we can assume the depth at a certain depth. I think we can assume a 20-inch depth, at least for this particular step here, and these other ones, that one's probably similar, and a 30-inch width, and it goes up 7 inches for each of these risers. There are a lot of variations, so I just put together a general one and put it in here, 20 inches deep front to back here, and 30 inches wide and centered. Imagine that can go various places along the head of this tub. But from this manufacturer, my understanding is that you get in from the end of it where it's facing down this way. And I went back to double check these height dimensions. If we drop that floor framing 11 inches or so and use a 34-inch high spa, which is what the A6L is 34 inches high, that makes it 23 off of the deck, and these steps get you up to 14. So I wouldn't want it too much more higher than that, I wouldn't think. But that's up to you, and I wanted to add that in for your consideration going forward. And so here we have, this is the final foundation plan included with this 12-22 set, 12-22-25 set. And it's updated practically, I would think, close to permit ready, except there's no section views at all on this whole set of plans. Down here I couldn't seem to get away from 1/8-inch measurements, and I gave up on it, so we end up with 1/8-inch measurements. And up here at least I got away from 16th-inch measurements, but I wanted to finalize this out in terms of the braced wall panels and what they're going to require. We're going to have to put a hold down of some type here and here, and the rest of this should work out okay. But I endeavored to make these windows, the spacing 1'7" 1/4" between the framing, consistent all the way through here. This one's not dimensioned yet, but it's identical with that one. And I think that does it. The next thing to promise, this is the view now as it is from the corner of the kitchen, and I'm looking forward to exactly how this can or will shape up. And that should be in the very next film. So thanks very much, and have a happy holiday. I will talk to you when I talk to you.